Hey, good morning, everyone. Time to do a little walking and talking. So I wanted to talk today about the game of life. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote The Game of Life and How to Play It. She's a damn genius. And it's a very spiritual centric book. She's talking about our power as, she doesn't use the term, I don't think, manifesting or manifestors, but that we are the creators of our reality, of course, working in conjunction with all that is and the natural flow of life, etc. About 10 years ago, it was 10 years ago now, that's crazy. My life was a complete mess. To the point where I hopped on a plane because I'd been searching for somebody to help me. And I hopped on a plane and flew to Connecticut on a whim, essentially on a whim, and ended up going to a men's retreat with a guy I had never met and with 7 other guys whose lives were in the shithole just like mine was. And all strangers, of course. One of the first things that the leader of that group taught that evening was you're playing a game. And what is your role in the game? How are you playing the game? Do you even understand that you're playing a game? And I remember that concept to me was like, what the hell are you talking about? I just didn't get it. I'd never heard life approached from that perspective before. I had always heard of life as, here you are, you're a born sinner, and Jesus came to save you, and you just need to obey whatever Jesus has said. Well, I had tried that, and that shit didn't work. So I'd pretty much thrown all of that away at this point in my life. I was still spiritual. I was still the good person that I always was. I just wasn't following these rules anymore because the rules didn't work for me. And when you try something and it doesn't work, then you turn around and you say, well, I guess that's that. And you either keep doing the rules and double down, or you just say, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. This doesn't work. I got to find a different way. So as I sat there and listened to this man talk that night, I remember that opened up something within me about it's a game. And I really struggled with that concept. As my own journey went on, and my own healing journey, when awakening journey went on, I didn't realize that this was going to be a big catalyst in my awakening. I had some massive breakthroughs that weekend, and it's because I was forced to look into the mirror. I was forced to look at myself. I was forced to look at the truths that were happening in my life that I didn't want to acknowledge, that in some way, shape, or form I was a part of. That I may not be responsible for the other person's behaviors and what is going on from that perspective, but I am responsible for the dynamic that I bring to the relationship and what I'm trying to get out of the relationship, etc. So the dynamics that are involved there. I'm talking about this game of life today because there's a lot of people that talk about escaping the matrix and making sure you break free from the 9 to 5. And there's all these stupid little cliche sayings and stuff like that, which I find to be completely ridiculous, because it's like people who say you got to kill your ego. It's like, no. Your ego is essential for your human experience. without your ego, there is no human experience. Just like without the matrix itself, right? Without the parameters that make the game, there is no game. There is no set reality, let's say, for you to work within in order to grow. We've all heard the saying that says, once you become aware of the game, once you see the game, you can't unsee it. Right? We've all had that experience in our life to some extent. Once you've seen something in your life, once you've expanded or stretched the mind to new possibilities, you can't undo it. Right? And that's what playing this game is like. The way I played it and the way most people play it is we don't realize we're in a game. Nobody tells us we're in a game, right? So you were searching for meaning, you were searching for identity through attributes or aspects or characteristics of the game. And you become highly identified with these characteristics and attributes. That could be your job. That could be the fact that it could be your family. It could be, and it's not always just one thing. It's usually a multiple of things, you know. It could be your religion, right? Your religion gives you identity. It gives you meaning. It gives you purpose. It gives you answers for what's coming next and what's in the afterlife and what's expected of you and all of this. Some of us get it from religion, some from education, some from society, some from our families, some from friends, you know. It's different for everybody, and it's always generally an amalgamation. But depending on how you're wired, you may be more prone to one aspect than another. So for instance, I found my identity in religion, and I found it in intimate relationships, in terms of they would be the ones, I needed something from those relationships to make me feel whole and complete. Same thing from religion. It was religion that made me feel whole and complete in some way. As long as I followed these rules, everything would be okay, you know. But then you, through life experiences, you come to a place where they say you wake up, right? And once you wake up, once you see, you can't unsee. So you can go back after you wake up and you realize all of these things, and you realize, well, this doesn't really work anymore, and that doesn't really work anymore. And you come back home here and you begin living from this place. You realize you have value and meaning and worth and are sacred simply because you are. You don't need anything out here to define you anymore. Now, you still have rent to pay. You still have, you know, some responsibilities and different things in life. But you approach things, you begin to approach things differently because you're seeing differently now. You're looking at things from a different perspective now. And you're finding out, oh, okay, well, a lot of these things don't hit the same way they used to. They don't feel the same way they used to feel because you have an expanded understanding and view of these things, right? And so, of course, they're not going to hit the same. Of course, they're not going to be the same. You begin to understand and value that connection is what's most important. Connection with other people. Because you realize we are all one. We are all here in this game. And most people don't realize that they are in a game. And the term game is not meant to trivialize the difficulty of the human experience, right? Because that is a very real thing. But the fact is, you become empowered when you realize you chose to play the game. You wanted to come here and have the experiences and learn from these aspects. And when you really look at it and look at it from the awakening perspective, you begin to realize that you're not a victim of this game. You cannot control everything in this reality per se. Life has its own flow, its own way of being, etc. But you have a lot more power than you realize. Once you become aware, once you see, you cannot unsee. So you've leveled up. We've all played games before, right? And at first the game seems really, really difficult. But the more you play the game, the more you understand the game, the more you learn some secrets of the game, right? And you eventually move from one level to the next level to the next level in the game. Well, it occurred to me last night that, well, this is just like any other game. And just because you've awakened doesn't mean you've arrived, per se. It just means you've reached the next level of awareness, the next level of understanding. But just like when you previously were in the game and did not realize you were playing a game, and you were identifying your meaning and everything else by identifying and attaching strongly to the characteristics of the game itself, you finally broke free of that at some point, and you play the game differently now. That's part of your growth. It's part of your ascension. That's part of your evolution. So now you're operating from a place where you say, okay, there are things here to learn in this new level. And just like you weren't aware before that you were playing a game, you were not aware that there are more levels. But it dawned on me last night, of course there is. That's how every game is set up. That's how all things are set up. It's like achieving black belt, let's say, right? You think, okay, once a person gets black belt, man, they have arrived. They know what they're doing now. And true, there is some truth to that, but it is definitely not the entirety of truth. What's interesting, and the reason I use this analogy is because it's very scripted in most places, right? In my experiences, it's very scripted. When you're going through your white to your yellow to your green to your blue or whatever the colors are that are in that particular style, in order to move from one color, one belt to the next belt, you have to be able to do certain things. Okay, these are the rules. These are the things. You have to be able to perform them. You have to be able to do them. Okay, and you work your way up little by little, and then you finally get to black belt, right? You got to put in the work. You got to put in the effort yourself. You don't get a free pass on it. You reach black belt. Now, black belt, a lot of people go, yay, all right, I reached black belt, I'm done, But there's others that understand, okay, now they've reached black belt. Now what? And it's kind of like, oh, well, welcome. Now, the next level of the game begins, right? And it's just the beginning of something completely new. It operates differently. It functions differently. You approach things differently. It's not just about getting through tasks A, B, and C per se. It's about really diving in and understanding some of these things at a deeper level. And so that relates very much to the game of life and how it is played. And just like anything, everything has an infinite number of levels because consciousness and knowledge is always expanding, it's always growing. And some people may interpret this as, depending on what your mindset is, you could hear this and you may have a feeling within you of, oh my gosh, you mean this just keeps on going? This game keeps on going forever? Through this life and then through into our next lives, etc. And it never ends? That feels like a lot. But you can flip that coin and you can say, yeah, but how great is that? You get to experience all these new things all of the time. And it doesn't mean those new things are going to be easy. What in God's name is that? Oh, it's a dog with a lit collar on. And the collar's red. And it actually looked like the size, a little bit big. We have coyotes around here. And it looked like a coyote, but it looked like a coyote with red eyes, and you couldn't actually see the actual details of it. It was just this shape with red eyes. It is dark out here, so it was like, what's that aspect of the game right there? So anyways, I want to share this stuff with you this morning because I thought it was just a really fantastic way of looking at things. Again, the word game is not meant to trivialize the trials that we go through, right? That we experience. Those are real, right? So it's not to minimize that, but it's to also know we can reclaim our power, right? We can reclaim our power, we can awake, we can see the game for what it is. We don't have to be identified with aspects of the game. Our true freedom and sovereignty comes when we understand we're playing a game. And then all new levels of the game open up for us. And we can play the game in a different way, and that's the challenge. The interesting thing is I used to look outside of myself because like all of the belts working up the black belt, it is prescribed for you what you need to do in order to attain black belt. Once you get to black belt, the prescription is not necessarily as clear cut in terms of what does it take to continue moving forward. The game of life is much the same way. We identify with all these different aspects of the game. We think that the job is going to provide us the meaning. The person that we're in relationship with is going to complete us and provide the meaning, or some religious figure or religion itself is going to provide the meaning and the context and everything that we need to answer all the questions we want answered in life and to have the life that we want to live. And at some point we realize these are all just levels. And most of my functioning has been out there, getting all my answers out there in the world, until I finally went through this awakening and this healing process, began transforming and correcting things in here that were being reflected out there in negative or dysfunctional ways in my life. And once I changed the things in here, my life became much, much, much better, right? Because transformation always occurs from the inside out, as above, so below. So within, so without. And the aspect I wanted to say here was once you come back and you start operating from this place, it's a different place of operating from. I can still go out and work a job. I can still take care of what needs to be taken care of. I can still go out and be in a relationship or something like that, right? But those things don't provide for me the way they used to in the past. They're not providing all of my answers. I can still go and be a part of a religion if I want to, if I choose to, in some spiritual capacity, right? But I'm not looking to all of those things to be my savior, to give me meaning. And at least in my experience, once you awaken and see the game for what it is, you start realizing, oh wait, instead of making all my decisions based on all of these rules of the game and based on all of these other things that I perceived or stated directly that other people or religion or society or whatever wants and expects from me, it's like, no, I actually get to choose. I get to choose how I want to show up. I get to choose the way I want to play the game. I know I have inherent meaning just because I am. Therefore, that alters the way that the game is played. It alters my perception of the game. And you begin making decisions from this place here. and not to the abandonment or the sacrifice of yourself on a consistent basis per se. So, wanted to bring that all up this morning. I thought that was some very great things. You're playing a game. What role are you playing in the game? Where does your identity and meaning and value come from? Is it coming from all of these things that are aspects of the game? Or does it come from you knowing you are valuable regardless? And that the game itself is valuable because it is assisting you and helping you on your path of growth. The game is not something to be overcome per se or to escape per se. The game is the game. And when you realize you get to play this game and you get to play the game how you want to play the game, that is very freeing and a very empowered place to operate from. So, blessings and love to each of you. Have a wonderful day.